Authoritarian child rearing, so low in acceptance control, high coercive control, low in autonomy granting. So authoritarian parents are cold, rejecting, critical, threatening. They use statements such as, do it because I said so. Children of authoritarian parents tend to be anxious, low in self-esteem, and self-reliant. Boys under this style are angry and defiant. Girls tend to be dependent, lack interest in exploration, and overwhelmed by challenging tasks. So I come from an authoritarian child rearing environment. I was the oldest. I'm the oldest child from a single parent, and we were all latchkey kids. So I had to do all the cooking and the cleaning. Now I cooked from a hamburger helper box, you know. I cooked from those boxes, but I did all the washing, all the ironing. I had to watch my brothers. I had a mother who always had her foot on my neck. In terms of her relationship with me, it was very hostile, and there was little interest in me exploring anything outside of that home. I don't remember dreaming. I don't really remember sort of wishing for anything else other than what was going on. I do remember exercising what would later become my gift and talents and everything. I remember lining up all my dolls and bears up against the wall, and then taking a sheet of paper and a pen and putting paper and pen in front of each of my dolls and bears. And I stood there and I was teaching them something. I have no idea what I was teaching them. Then later in my early adolescent ages, I would line up all of the neighborhood kids, tell them to sit down on the stairs, and then put pen and paper in front of them and teach them something. I have no idea what I was teaching them. Well, those were the first signs that I would later become a teacher. And maybe in something like that, I was exploring. But I did not sit down and think about writing. I realized that I could write when I was in high school, but there wasn't a lot of just dreaming and thinking about things and wondering about things. I was in too much sort of conflict. I was in a conflict-ridden home. And so oftentimes when you see boys who are angry and defiant, it could be because there is an absent father, or if there is a father in the home, there is an absent mother, and they will sort of replicate. We talked about this in the previous audio, part 3, that they will replicate the conflict that they feel externally and internally in relationships. With girls, your only objective as a girl, and remember, you are right after the generation of the 50s. I mean, of the baby boom, the baby boom generation, where you are just expected to find a good man, find a good job, go to the military. There are no other types of expectations. You come from a working class home, maybe middle class, a little bit or whatever, but your tasks, you are taught as a girl to learn how to keep the home. So all of those pressures are placed upon you very early, as soon as you can sweep a broom, right? For me, those were the types of pressures that were placed upon me. I'm not saying that it wasn't for my good. It's just that now I am not that interested in, say, having kids or having a relationship, especially with this last relationship where it just wore me out. And I would rather sort of just stick to myself, be with myself for a moment. Authoritarian child rearing, so children tend to be antisocial. In addition to unwarranted direct control, authoritarian parents engage in a more subtle type called psychological control. These are behaviors that intrude on and manipulate the children's verbal expression, individuality, and attachments to parents in an attempt to decide virtually everything for the child. These parents frequently interrupt or put down the child's ideals, decisions, and choice of friends. When they are dissatisfied, they withdraw love, making their affection or attention contingent on the child's compliance. As a result, children struggle with adjustment problems. They exhibit withdrawn behavior and aggression, and they tend to damage relationships through manipulation and exclusion. So if you have grown up in an authoritarian home and you have struggled in relationships as a result, it is usually because of what you were kind of taught as a child. So, somewhere in my development, I started stuttering. And sometimes if I'm talking too fast, I'll find myself kind of stutter a little bit. But for the most part, it was worse when I was a child. When my mother put so much pressure on me as a adolescent to high school, and I just began stuttering. And you don't really have a lot of individuality in a working class home anyway, right? Another thing that I realized is that last quoted sentence: when they are dissatisfied, they withdraw love, making their affection or attention contingent on the child's compliance. So that means they really don't love you. I understand that you have parents who will keep a home for you, work and everything, and we call that love. I call it manipulation too. It's just sometimes there are some people who understand that it's just wrong to give over their kids to somebody else to raise, right? They do have some kind of moral integrity about them, character about them, but they will punish you and sort of torture you. They will be very toxic in their relationships with you, and you think to yourself, maybe it would have been better for you to give me over to somebody else. I don't know. But you see this a lot, that you make your affection and attention contingent on the child's compliance. Well, if you are raised in that type of environment, you will find yourself doing the exact same thing with an adult man. That you will make your attention or affection contingent on his compliance, or it will be the reverse. He will make his affection or attention contingent on your compliance. You have a lot of videos out here now today on YouTube where the person is saying, don't validate your man, don't validate your woman. And all that is just a form of control and manipulation and making your love conditional. So unless you comply, unless you do what I say, because I said so, unless you do it, I'm not going to validate you. I'm not going to demonstrate any commitment to you. I'm not going to make life with me certain. You will never know if you are with me. And those are the types of relationships, if you have been in those types of relationships with a parent or primary caregiver, or it can be an aunt or an uncle or a teacher. If you have been in those types of relationships with those types of people from childhood to adolescence to early adulthood, I promise you, you will bring those types of strategies that you see here on this slide into your adult relationships. And like I said in part 1, ultimatums do not work for people who are not the marrying kind. But I'm going to add to it now, if they are the marrying kind, they may not work with that type of person who is just not going to give in to tantrums, right? They're just not, and they will withdraw, and they are not withdrawing to make their love conditional. They are withdrawing because they don't want that type of conflict in their lives.